It was a foggy night when Billy, an old-school trucker, felt the hairs on his neck prickle for the first time in years. He had been hauling freight across Route 66 for over 2 decades. But tonight was different. The fog was thick, swallowing the highway, and his headlights barely cut through it. As he drove, he noticed a dark shape in his rearview mirror, a truck far behind him. It never got closer, no matter how long he drove. Unease grew as the fog thickened, and his radio crackled with static. After an hour, Billy checked the mirror again. The truck was gone. He pulled over, stepping into the cold, silent night. The fog was suffocating, and his truck's lights flickered. Then he heard it. A low, distant horn. He spun around, and the fog parted to reveal an ancient truck, its headlights glowing like predator's eyes. The driver's seat was empty, but in the passenger seat sat a gaunt figure with glowing green eyes. Billy jumped back into his truck and sped off, but the ghostly rig stayed on his tail, no matter how fast he drove. The fog finally cleared near a diner. Billy rushed inside, shaken. The waitress and a bearded trucker named Hank listened to his story. They warned him about the cursed trucker, a spirit that haunted Route 66, trapping drivers in the fog. The waitress urged Billy to leave before sunrise, but Hank warned that once the trucker had his sights on you, there was no escape. As they spoke, the diner grew colder, and the fog rolled in. The door creaked open, and there stood the trucker, his green eyes piercing through the darkness. The waitress whispered, "It's too late." Billy realized the nightmare wasn't over. The cursed road had claimed him, and there was no way out. The trucker stepped forward, and the diner seemed to warp around them. Billy's fate was sealed. The road would never let him go. Billy's breath came in shallow gasps as the trucker loomed in the doorway, the green eyes burning like embers in the dark. The diner's lights flickered again, casting long, distorted shadows that seemed to stretch toward him. The waitress backed away, her face pale, while Hank muttered under his breath, his hands clenched into fists. Billy's mind raced, but his body felt frozen, as if the fog outside had seeped into his veins, slowing his every movement. The trucker took another step forward, the floor groaning under his weight, and Billy realized there was no escape. Not through the door, not through the back. The road had come for him. The figure raised a hand, pointing toward Billy with a skeletal finger. The air grew heavier, and Billy felt a pull, an invisible force drawing him toward the doorway. He fought it, digging his heels into the floor, but it was no use. The trucker's eyes glowed brighter, and Billy's vision blurred as the diner seemed to dissolve around him. The walls melted into the fog, the counter and tables fading into nothingness. All that remained was the trucker, the green eyes, and the endless stretch of road behind him. Billy's truck was gone. The diner was gone. There was only the fog and the road, stretching into eternity. As the trucker turned and walked back toward his rig, Billy felt his feet move on their own, following as if compelled by some unseen force. The ancient truck's engine roared to life, a sound that seemed to vibrate through Billy's very soul. He climbed into the passenger seat, the gaunt figure now behind the wheel. The truck lurched forward, merging into the fog, and Billy knew he was no longer in control. The road stretched ahead, endless and dark, and he realized with a sinking dread that this was his fate now, to ride forever in the fog, a prisoner of the cursed highway. The last thing he saw before the fog swallowed him completely was the faint glow of the trucker's green eyes, watching him, waiting, as the road claimed another soul.